The Zyrphorians arrived in a shimmering cascade of light, their ship an iridescent orb that hovered effortlessly in the skies above Earth. The world stood still as humanity watched in awe and trepidation. These beings had traveled countless light years, weaving through wormholes and quantum anomalies to reach the pale blue dot. Their technology was beyond anything humanity could fathom, and their arrival heralded the possibility of unimaginable progress or destruction. When the first emissary descended, it became clear the Zyrphorians were unlike anything Earth had encountered. Their forms shimmered and shifted, translucent and semi-liquid, flowing like quicksilver. Their voices resonated directly in the minds of those around them, bypassing the need for spoken language. They introduced themselves as explorers, not conquerors, seeking to study Earth and its peculiarities. At first, humans were relieved. No weapons had been drawn, no ultimatums issued. But soon, subtle cracks appeared in the facade of alien invincibility. The Zyrphorians, accustomed to living in an environment of perpetual zero gravity, had no frame of reference for the force that governed Earth: gravity. The first sign of trouble occurred during the initial diplomatic meeting at the United Nations headquarters. The Zyrphorian emissary, known as Ilzix, attempted to descend the stairs leading to the assembly hall. To the horror of onlookers, Ilzix's fluid form collapsed into a shimmering puddle at the bottom of the staircase. It took the aliens several awkward moments to reconstitute itself, its telepathic voice filled with irritation. "This downward pull is highly inconvenient," Ilzix projected, its tone carrying the faintest edge of condescension. "How do you creatures tolerate such an oppressive force?" There was an awkward silence before a human scientist, Dr. Elena Garcia, hesitantly replied, "We adapt. It's simply how our world works. Gravity shapes our lives." The Zyrphorian emissary gave no response, but the incident became the first in a long line of misunderstandings and missteps. These Zyrphorians had developed biomechanical suits to navigate Earth's surface. These suits, sleek and translucent like their occupants, were designed to mimic human motion. Unfortunately, the suits designed without a thorough understanding of gravitational physics proved hilariously inadequate. The first time a Zyrphorian attempted to walk, it toppled over like a marionette with cut strings. Yeah. Jinsai built. Uh-oh. Humans tried to suppress their laughter, but the Zyrphorians' attempts at movement grew increasingly absurd. Some suits launched their occupants into the air in an overcompensation of force, while others simply crumpled under their own weight. A particularly ambitious Zyrphorian attempted to leap, only to collide with a lamppost and become entangled in its own suit. "Why do you creatures persist in this ridiculous method of locomotion?" Ilgix demanded, its tone dripping with disdain. Because we have no choice," Dr. Garcia explained patiently. "Gravity's constant. You have to work with it, not against it." The Zyrphorians were unimpressed. "Primitive," one of them muttered telepathically. Despite their dismissive attitude, the Zyrphorians were nothing if not curious. They demanded a comprehensive explanation of gravity, and humanity obliged. A team of physicists, led by Dr. Garcia, prepared an elaborate presentation detailing Newton's laws, Einstein's theories of relativity, and practical demonstrations of gravitational effects. The Zyrphorians listened attentively, their semi-liquid forms quivering with concentration. But when the presentation concluded, their response was disappointing. "This force is but a localized phenomenon," Ilgix declared. It is irrelevant in the greater cosmos. Dr. Garcia sighed. It may seem that way, but on Earth, gravity governs everything. It's why objects fall, why planets orbit stars, why life has evolved the way it has. Disregarding it is dangerous. Ilzek's form shimmered with what could only be interpreted as skepticism. Dangerous? We are far beyond such concerns. The Zyrphorians' hubris soon led to a series of embarrassing and increasingly perilous incidents. One Zyrphorian scientist, eager to study Earth's flora, floated too close to a tree and became ensnared in its branches. The rescue operation required 3 human firefighters, a ladder, and a considerable amount of patience. Another incident occurred when a Zyrphorian attempted to handle a human object, a simple glass of water. The combination of gravity and inertia proved too much. The glass slipped, shattered on the ground, and splashed the Zyrphorian. The alien's outraged telepathic cries echoed across the room. But the most dramatic episode happened during an experiment at a research facility. The Zyrphorians, determined to demonstrate their superiority, attempted to neutralize gravity in a localized area using one of their devices. The result was chaos. The device malfunctioned, creating a gravitational vortex that hurled objects across the room. Scientists clung to furniture as the Zyrphorians flailed helplessly in the air, their liquid forms distorting wildly. It was Dr. Garcia who managed to deactivate the device, her quick thinking preventing further disaster. As the dust settled, she turned to Ilgix, her expression stern. You believe me now? She asked. Ilzix's form flickered uncertainly. Perhaps there is more to this force than we understood, it admitted grudgingly. Chastened by their failures, the Zyrphorians reluctantly agreed to collaborate with humans to better understand gravity. They began training sessions, led by Dr. Garcia and her team, where they learned to navigate Earth's environment more effectively. The sessions were often comedic, with Zyrphorians wobbling like toddlers and humans offering patient and occasionally sarcastic encouragement. Over time, the Zyrphorians began to grasp the intricacies of gravity. They learned to move with it rather than fight it, to respect its power rather than dismiss it. And as they adapted, a mutual respect began to grow between the two species. Humans marveled at the Zyrphorians' willingness to learn, while the aliens began to appreciate humanity's resilience and ingenuity. The Zyrphorians' journey to understanding gravity marked the beginning of a deeper bond between the two civilizations. What had started as a comedy of errors became a collaboration that bridged the gap between worlds. And though the Zyrphorians still struggled at times, they no longer dismissed gravity as a trivial force. Instead, they came to see it for what it truly was, a fundamental law of the universe, worthy of respect. If you loved this girl, if you respected her, forever you'd be on this planet. The Zyrphorians' admission that gravity was more formidable than they had anticipated marked a turning point. To their credit, the aliens did not retreat to their orbiting ships in defeat. Instead, they challenged humans to demonstrate how they had thrived under such impossible conditions. This request, born out of curiosity and perhaps a lingering sense of superiority, ignited an unprecedented collaboration. Dr. Elena Garcia and her team saw an opportunity. If we can show them how humans have overcome gravity's challenges through innovation and adaptation, she told her colleagues, we might gain a deeper understanding of their technology as well. The first stop on their educational tour was an iconic feat of human engineering, the Burj Khalifa. Standing over 800 meters tall, the skyscraper was a testament to humanity's determination to defy gravity. The Zyrphorians hovered awkwardly around the structure, their biomechanical suits still unreliable. Ilgix observed the building's height with what could only be described as astonishment. "You constructed this against the pull of gravity?" it asked telepathically. "Not just against it," Dr. Garcia replied, "but with it in mind. Every piece of this structure is designed to withstand gravitational forces, from its foundation to its spire." The Zyrphorians seemed genuinely impressed. They examined blueprints and listened intently to explanations of load distribution and wind resistance. For the first time, their telepathic voices carried an undercurrent of respect. "From now on," said Daly, "we will allow ourselves no rank on the ballot. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody shall have a level playing field with 100% of this." Next, the humans introduced the Zyrphorians to Earth's space exploration programs. At NASA's Johnson Space Center, the aliens were guided through exhibits showcasing the International Space Station, ISS, moonlanders, and Mars rovers. The Zyrphorians, who had mastered interstellar travel, initially dismissed the technology as primitive. However, their skepticism faltered when they learned about the intricate balance required to escape Earth's gravity. Ilzik studied the Saturn V rocket model with curiosity. "Your propulsion systems are crude, yet you managed to leave the pole of your planet," it mused. "How did you account for the immense energy expenditure?" "Careful calculations and decades of trial and error," Dr. Garcia replied. "Gravity doesn't just let go. We had to build machines that could overcome it, step by step." And the Zyrphorians began to see a pattern. Human ingenuity was not about erasing obstacles, but adapting to them. The aliens were especially fascinated by the concept of orbits, where objects moved fast enough to counteract gravity's pull without escaping it entirely. The elegance of the solution seemed to resonate with their analytical minds. The tour continued with visits to more earthly innovations. Bridges that spanned vast rivers, planes that soared across continents, and dams that harnessed the power of water all told the same story. Humans had learned to coexist with gravity rather than fighting it outright. One particular moment of clarity came during a demonstration of high-speed trains. The Zyrphorians marveled at the magnetic levitation, MAG-lev, technology, which allowed trains to float above the tracks, reducing friction. Though the trains were free from gravity's grip on a small scale, the Zyrphorians grasped that even this freedom required a deep understanding of the forces at play. "It is ironic," Ilgix remarked. "Your species has managed to temporarily defy gravity in so many ways, yet your solutions are never permanent. Always, you must return to the ground." "That's the thing about gravity," Dr. Garcia said with a smile. "It keeps us grounded, literally and figuratively." The Zyrphorians' forms shimmered in what could only be interpreted as a gesture of contemplation. Despite these lessons, the Zyrphorians were not immune to more mishaps. One particularly chaotic event occurred during a visit to a construction site. A Zyrphorian engineer, eager to test a human crane, underestimated the complexity of balancing a heavy load. The result was a nearly catastrophic collapse of scaffolding, which was averted only by the quick reflexes of human workers. But Garcia intervened before tempers could flare. "This is exactly why understanding gravity is crucial," she told Ilgix. "It's not just about knowledge, it's about respect." The Zyrphorian emissary made no immediate reply, but later that evening, it approached Garcia privately. "Your people have a resilience we had not anticipated," it admitted. "You adapt to chaos, not just survive it. This is something we could learn from." That's the point, Garcia replied. We're not just teaching you about gravity, we're showing you how it shaped us. The Zyrphorians, now more humbled and cooperative, proposed a joint experiment, a gravity numeral facility that would allow both species to study the effects of variable gravitational forces in a controlled environment. The project, spearheaded by Garcia and Ilgix, became a symbol of mutual respect and collaboration. Construction of the facility was fraught with challenges, but it also highlighted the strengths of both species. Humans provided practical engineering solutions, while the Zyrphorians contributed their advanced materials and energy systems. The result was a gleaming dome where gravity could be dialed up or down at will. In the inaugural experiment, the Zyrphorians finally experienced the sensation of increased gravity. As they struggled to maintain their forms under the pressure, their telepathic voices conveyed a mixture of awe and discomfort. Ish, this is what you live with daily? Exactly, Garcia said. Now imagine evolving under this force for millions of years. The experiment was a breakthrough. The Zyrphorians began to incorporate gravity into their understanding of physical laws, while humans gained insights into alien energy systems. The collaboration even inspired new technologies, such as improved propulsion systems and materials that could withstand extreme forces. By the end of their visit, the Zyrphorians no longer dismissed gravity as a trivial phenomenon. Instead, they saw it as a fundamental force that had shaped not only Earth, but also the species that called it home. For their part, humans gained a newfound appreciation for their resilience and ingenuity, traits that had been honed by gravity's relentless pull. So, as the Zyrphorians prepared to leave Earth, Ilgix addressed a gathering of humans. You have taught us more than we expected, not just about gravity, but about adaptation, creativity, and perseverance. For this, we are grateful. Dr. Garcia smiled. And we've learned from you too. Perhaps one day we'll meet in a place where gravity isn't an obstacle for either of us. The Zyrphorians' ship ascended into the sky, their forms shimmering with newfound purpose. Humanity watched as the iridescent orb disappeared into the cosmos, carrying with it a lesson that transcended worlds: respect for the forces that shape us, and for those who overcome them. The Zyrphorians, though humbled by their early encounters with gravity, retained a lingering arrogance. While many of them had learned to navigate Earth's challenges, a faction of their scientific elite continued to see gravity not as an immutable force, but as a nuisance to be overcome. Emboldened by their advanced understanding of physics and their technology, these Zyrphorians proposed an experiment that would reshape humanity's understanding of natural forces and nearly destroy them all in the process. It immediately destroyed them all in the process. The plan was simple on paper: create a localized gravitational null zone in an uninhabited region of Earth. The Zyrphorians argued this would allow them to study the properties of gravity in isolation and demonstrate the superiority of their science. Despite the objections of human scientists like Dr. Elena Garcia, who warned of unforeseen consequences, the experiment was approved under strict conditions of containment. This is folly, Dr. Garcia said during a tense meeting. You can't just isolate gravity like turning off a light switch. It's interconnected with every natural system on this planet. Ilzix, now a senior Zyrphorian scientist, hesitated but ultimately supported the project. "We will take every precaution," they assured her. "Our models are flawless." But as humanity had learned countless times before, nature rarely respects theoretical perfection. A reckless experiment? The experiment took place in the remote plains of Central Asia, far from any major population centers. The Zyrphorians deployed a device they called the gravimorph resonator, a crystalline sphere that emitted energy pulses capable of disrupting gravitational fields. The site was bustling with activity. Zyrphorian engineers calibrated the device, while human scientists monitored from a safe distance, their expressions a mix of curiosity and trepidation. At precisely 1200 hours, the resonator activated. At first, the effects were subtle. Small pebbles floated inches off the ground, and researchers experienced a slight lightness in their steps. The Zyrphorians celebrated, their telepathic voices buzzing with excitement. "See," one of them exclaimed, "gravity bends to our will." But within minutes, the situation spiraled out of control. The null zone expanded far beyond the intended boundaries, its edges shimmering with an eerie light. Trees uprooted and floated into the air, their roots dangling like grotesque tendrils. Rivers flowed upward in twisting, chaotic spirals, and animals caught in the zone thrashed helplessly in the weightless environment. The resonator's core began to overheat, emitting a low-frequency hum that resonated across the plains. Human monitors screamed warnings into their radios, but the Zyrphorian engineers struggled to regain control. The device designed to manipulate gravity had instead unleashed chaos. The cascading effects. The gravity disruption was not confined to the experiment site. Across the planet, seemingly unrelated phenomena began to unfold. In Europe, seismic activity increased dramatically, triggering earthquakes in areas with no prior history of tectonic instability. In the Pacific, tidal patterns became erratic, causing flooding in coastal regions. Satellites orbiting Earth experienced unpredictable gravitational anomalies, disrupting global communications and navigation systems. Even the Zyrphorians' own ships, hovering in low Earth orbit, began to falter. Their advanced propulsion systems, which relied on precise gravitational calculations, struggled to compensate for the fluctuating forces. On the ground, the situation was dire. The null zone continued to expand, swallowing entire sections of the landscape. Human scientists scrambled to evacuate nearby villages, while Zyrphorian engineers desperately tried to stabilize the resonator. "We cannot contain it," one Zyrphorian cried telepathically, their form quivering with panic. "You have to shut it down," Dr. Garcia shouted, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "We cannot," Ilzix admitted, their tone tinged with despair. "The core is locked in an energy feedback loop," Propello said. "We can remorseless access the inventory." A lesson in hubris. The catastrophe forced the Zyrphorians to confront the limits of their knowledge. For all their technological prowess, they had underestimated the complexity and interconnectedness of Earth's natural systems. Gravity, far from being a mere force to be manipulated, was the foundation upon which every aspect of the planet's stability rested. Dr. Garcia and her team took charge of the crisis. Using human ingenuity and an intimate understanding of Earth's physics, they devised a plan to neutralize the resonator. The Zyrphorians, humbled and desperate, followed their lead. The plan involved creating a counter frequency to disrupt the resonator's feedback loop. While Zyrphorian technology provided the necessary precision instruments, it was human scientists who calculated the exact parameters needed to stabilize the device. Um, the operation was perilous, requiring a team to enter the null zone and manually recalibrate the resonator's core. Some of the warriors who came from the sword fight get together. Dr. Garcia volunteered to lead the team. "This is our planet," she said firmly. "We're the ones who have to fix this." The heroic intervention. As the team entered the null zone, they were met with a surreal and harrowing landscape. Boulders floated like balloons, and the ground beneath their feet seemed to ripple like water. Every step was a struggle, their bodies alternately weightless and crushingly heavy as they moved through the gravitational distortions. Guided by Zyrphorian engineers via radio, the team reached the resonator. Its crystalline surface pulsed erratically, emitting waves of energy that made the air hum with tension. Dr. Garcia, with steady hands and a calm voice, directed her team to install the counter-frequency modulators. The operation took hours, each moment fraught with danger. One misstep could have resulted in the device's complete detonation, an event that would have catastrophic consequences for the entire planet. But through determination and collaboration, they succeeded. The resonator's energy field began to stabilize, and the null zone slowly collapsed in on itself. As the team retreated to safety, the landscape around them returned to normal. The trees resettled into the ground, rivers flowed naturally once more, and the shimmering edges of the null zone faded into nothingness. A humbling realization. In the aftermath, the Zyrphorians were uncharacteristically silent. Their arrogance had led to disaster, and it was humanity's resilience and ingenuity that had saved the day. Iljix, who had once dismissed gravity as a trivial force, approached Dr. Garcia with a rare expression of contrition. "We were wrong," they admitted telepathically. "Gravity is not merely a force. It is the thread that binds your world together. And we have much to learn." Dr. Garcia nodded, exhaustion etched into her features. "Respecting forces beyond our control is the first step toward understanding them. You have the technology, but we have the experience. Together, we can find balance." A new era of collaboration. The crisis marked a turning point in human-Zyrphorian relations. The aliens, now deeply respectful of Earth's natural forces, established a permanent research station on the planet to study gravity and its effects. They worked side by side with human scientists, sharing knowledge and developing new technologies that benefited both species. For humanity, the incident was a reminder of their own resilience and adaptability. For the Zyrphorians, it was a humbling lesson in the dangers of hubris and the importance of collaboration. As Dr. Garcia and Lil Zik stood together on the site of the former null zone, now a thriving research hub, they looked to the future with cautious optimism. "Yeah, you taught us the power of gravity," Ilzik said, "and in doing so, you taught us the power of humility." Dr. Garcia smiled. "And you taught us that even the most advanced minds can learn something new."